Hi there, my name is David Johnson, and I want to talk to you about what I went through as far as panic attacks and anxiety are concerned. Back in 1986, January of 1986, I hit a brick wall and I got the fright of my life. I thought I was either dying or having a heart attack or I was going crazy. And that was the start of my suffering. But I was very fortunate that I got the right help. And as of today, the 20th of July 2009, I have been recovered 21 years and 4 months. And I got the right help right from the beginning of my suffering. And I know that there are many people out there who have been suffering for many years and have never been able to get out of that anxiety state. But I was one of the lucky ones. And for the last 20 years, almost 21 years now, I come to think about it, I've been helping other sufferers with their anxiety disorders, showing them the way to recovery, the way that I was shown. Now, I understand you more than you understand yourself. I know what you're going through, but I also know why you're going through it and what you need to do to recover from the state that you're in. And I also want you to know that I do know what you're going through, because I'm now going to tell you all about yourself. First of all, you study yourself constantly. You're always aware of how you feel. You look at others and think, why can't I be like them? Why can't I be the person I used to be before I got into this terrible state? I'm not me. I'm not the me I used to be. In fact, you've forgotten what it's like to be normal. You look at others, and when you look at others, seeing them getting on with their lives, that merely highlights the state that you're in. And in that moment, you can feel very alone, almost lost within yourself. You put on an act in front of others, trying to make out that there's nothing wrong. And sometimes you wonder how much longer you can put on this act before you do fall apart or make a fool of yourself in front of others. You fear the unknown. What might happen next? What's around the corner? But the unknown is very clever. It never shows itself. Because if it did, it wouldn't be the unknown any longer. For those of you who have panic attacks, you have the voice of doubt, the what if voice. What if this? What if I collapse? What if I can't cope? What if I have a heart attack? What if I go crazy? And in the midst of panic, you have that voice of panic that is desperately trying to tell you, you're going to be all right, you're going to get through this, you're going to get through it. But that voice never, ever convinces you. Also, you have a very vivid imagination. Your imagination takes you into some very scary, frightening places. In actual fact, your imagination takes you way, 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 way beyond reality. But your fear is that what you imagine one day will become reality. There are two things that sufferers cannot stop themselves from doing. One is getting involved in their own suffering, studying themselves constantly, and the other thing that sufferers cannot stop themselves from doing is living in the future. There are times when you can't stop thinking about the state that you're in. There are times when your mind goes back to the past where you remember how long you've been like this. You remember all of your past suffering, and you add today's suffering onto all of the past suffering that you've gone through. Also, there are times when your thoughts go to the future and you think, what if I can't recover? How on earth am I going to get out of the state that I'm in? And that is one of the most depressing thoughts of all. For some, they have moments of some sort of inner calmness. And that's when they think, now this is me. If only I could stay like this for the rest of my life, I'd be fine. But those moments always vanish. They evaporate. And the sufferer goes once more back into that terrible state of anxiety. Or there are moments when sufferers forget themselves, only to have perhaps an anxious thought come to mind and they remember themselves once more. And when they remember themselves, all of that fear, that anxiety comes back. And that's when they're more likely to think, oh no, if only I hadn't thought that thought, I'd have been all right. I know that you're standing on very shaky ground. You don't trust your thoughts, you don't trust your feelings, you don't trust yourself as a human being. This thing, this state that you're in is holding you back from moving forward. You're stuck. Time is taking you forward. We all age, but you're stuck. It's almost like being in a time capsule. Indeed, the worse you feel, the further away recovery seems. Because if I was to tell you that you can recover, there's two questions here. And the first question is, can you believe me? And the answer is no, of course you can't believe me. I'm no fool. I know that you can't believe me. And the reason why you can't believe me is because you're not recovered. And in your worst moments, you would be thinking, how on earth can I get to recovery from where I am? So of course you can't believe me. But the second question is, do you want to believe me? And the answer is yes. In a moment of absolute fear and in a moment of absolute panic, you desperately want to believe that there is a way out of this. There is only one reason why you haven't recovered, and that is because no one has shown you how to. There is no other reason. That is the only reason, because no one has shown you how to. I know from personal experience that the only person who was going to show me the way to complete recovery was someone who had been through what I was going through and had completely recovered and could pass on all of that knowledge and understanding to other sufferers. And that, of course, was the late, wonderful Dr. Claire Weekes, an Australian doctor who herself had her own breakdown while studying to be a scientist. And it was through her teachings that I recovered. There's something that you need to know. You have a difficulty. And your difficulty probably is that you have been treated by those who are taught to think and treat on a clinical level. But as a sufferer, you don't think nor do you suffer on a clinical level. In actual fact, you think and suffer on a human level. So there is never a meeting of the minds between the sufferer and the health professional or the therapist. You're trying to understand the clinician or the therapist's point of view.